And so now what we're going to add is we're going to add elevation. When we add elevation, what we're looking for is for the horse to now pick their legs up higher. And what I've done, I've got my jump cup set on the bottom hole of my jump standard, which makes this between about 8 inches from the center point off the ground. By the time the horse picks up their feet, it's probably about 10 inches. Okay, and so you can judge, depending on the level of your horse and what you're working with, how high you'd like this pole to be. Sometimes just bringing it off the ground about 4 or 5 inches, it depends on the level of horse you're starting with, something young or something green. These horses are in working lessons and in training, and so we're going to work them over poles that are about 8 to 10 inches high in the middle. Okay, Zoe, when you're ready. We're also alternating the side of the pole that's up. We have one side of our pole up and one side of our pole down, and as we build the exercise, it's going to be the same all the way throughout. Good, Zoe, good pace. Okay, good boy. Go ahead, Mackenzie. So what you saw Andy do is he tapped those poles just a few times. He especially tapped that last one. It's the first revolution through for these horses, and so they're used to it being flat on the ground. And so now what they're getting used to is they're getting used to the poles being off the ground. Okay, so it's okay when mistakes happen. We're going to learn from them. So what Mackenzie is going to learn from that last mistake is that her horse was off center. So when she came through the pole apparatus, we're tracking to our left. Mackenzie's horse was shifted to the right and she was off center from the middle stripe. And what that does is now she's going over the highest side of the pole. So literally the horse has to lift their leg up the highest the way we have it set up. So Mackenzie, what you're going to do is make sure that your horse is centered. She's falling a little through the right shoulder, so that made her a bit to the outside, and that's why she pulled that pole down. Okay, so now ladies, we're going to put the other side of the jump up, still building our trot pole exercise. What we're doing is we're still alternating. We're alternating the sides of the poles that comes up. We're encouraging the horse to stay in the middle by alternating the poles and not just setting them flat on the ground or setting them even on both sides. We're making sure that the horse understands how to stay left foot and right foot picking up even steps. Okay, go ahead, Zoe. So first off, just starting with a nice working trot pace, then getting straight. And it's important that the rider just keeps breathing. Okay, so what you saw Andy do is what he did is he decided to think that they were canter poles, and that's okay. Go ahead, we'll come back through that again. Mackenzie, go ahead. So when Andy came through those, he saw the height of the poles, and instead of just trotting through the poles, what he did is he actually tried to canter, and that's not unusual when they start coming off the ground. We're going to watch Sweet Pea. So support her with that right rein. Oh, good girl. And those are pretty high poles too. Much better, Mac. Go ahead, Andy, come through that one more time. And so what we're working with Andy is he has a shorter step. He has to really use his body to pick his legs up and maintain a pace. And so he thought it might be easier just to canter those cavaletti poles. We're going to help him just understand balance and pace and just picking up his legs at the trot. And that happens, you know, we're horses, we're equestrians, and we're, you know, on horses obviously that are learning about where to put their feet and where to put their balance. Okay, so Andy is still thinking that he should jump the jumps. Go ahead, Zoe, we're going to bring him through one more time. All right, and so what you're going to do as a rider is just really open your shoulders and sit up and balance, and you're going to support him by almost half halting in that step, because he's just assuming that he can't lift his legs up that high and he can't trot through it. And we're going to tell him 2, 1, 2. A little bit better, right? Okay, so for a horse like this, so Andy is almost over exaggerating the step, and in doing that he's now jumping the cavaletti poles. Okay, and what we're going to do for Andy is we're actually going to set the pole just a little bit lower. Now I have jump standards that have a lower edge to them. They're just below the jump cups. All right, Andy, we're going to let you go through one more time. And what I did, we're trying to explain to the horse that, okay, they might be off the ground, they're not on the ground, they may not be as easy, but it's certainly not as difficult as what he's making it out to be. So what we did is we lowered the elevation of the pole just a little bit to help him go, good boy, much better. So that time we had a much better consistency of his legs. He didn't quite jump as high off the ground. And so for a horse like Andy, for now, he's not quite to a level where he can have the pole up between 8 and 10 inches off the ground. He needed something just a little bit lower, okay? We still have our poles left, right, high side, low side. We're gonna go ahead and put this fourth pole up, okay? So when you're gonna come through here again, ladies, the poles are just a little bit lower. I have all 4 of them set up. Go ahead and find your working trot pace, put 1 foot in each space. Sometimes it's not unusual for a horse to just look at this and try to jump the whole thing. And that's why we work on these exercises. We work on them learning to place their feet specifically with these exercises where we want them to be. Good boy. 1, 2, 1, 2. Good boy, better, wasn't it? Okay, so that time he did 3 pulls correct, 1 foot in each space. The last pull he still wants to jump, and so we're still just working on strengthening him and finding his balance and finding his pace. Okay, Mac. I love working with these students and these horses, you know. Andy's a finished season jumper, and yet we can still go to something as simple as trot pulls. Oh, beautiful, good girl. Okay, so great on the step. Sweet Pea is actually very young, and so she does not have as much experience as, say, Andy does, and yet both of them are being challenged in different ways. Go ahead and come through it again, ladies. We're still tracking to our left because we're still building our exercise, but we're gonna make sure and we even our sides out and we track to our right. We never want our horse to be asymmetrical. We want them to be very symmetrical on their sides and for muscle and for balance reasons. 1, 2, good boy. He's still figuring out, but he's doing such a good job. You know, he tried to canter the first pole and then he realized as he got in the exercise, he couldn't canter the rest because they weren't canter poles. And so he did trot through. Go ahead, Mac. So with Sweet Pea, she has just a little bit longer leg. It's not as challenging for her to get through the trot pole exercises, but for her, it's about staying straight and finding balance. 2, 1, 2. Good job, Mackenzie. Nice work. Okay, ladies, we're gonna reverse and we're gonna go the other way. Now I'm gonna leave the trot poles up as they are. We're gonna challenge the horse to just connect what we've been doing in our exercises. By reversing and going the other way, Zoe, what you're gonna bring him to believe is that he's already been through this. We haven't changed the distance and we haven't changed the height. So when you're ready, Zoe, go ahead and trot through this direction. One thing I notice as a trainer, especially whenever I train and ride horses, is how much horses dominate to one side or another. And you always want to make sure that you're creating them to be equal on both right and left direction. Good. That's it, Zoe. Oh, what a good boy, what a good boy. So all that repetition to the left paid off. We reversed, we left our exercise up just like this, and Andy was able to clear it 1 foot in each step, just like we asked. What a good boy. Okay, Mackenzie, go ahead. So Sweet Pea is a little bit weaker to the right. And so Mackenzie works a lot on her balance tracking to the right, whether it's cantering or trotting. Okay, that's all right, keep going. We're gonna come back and do that again. So what you saw her do is, again, I prefaced that whole series with she was a little weaker to the right. Mackenzie and I both know this because we worked together on this horse. And what you saw was you saw her try to canter the first 2 poles, and then she finally realized that she couldn't and she needed to back off and trot. Mackenzie, go ahead and go again. Know your horse, know their strengths, know their weaknesses, okay? Know how to help them strengthen their weaknesses. 2, 1, 2. Good girl, way to keep riding. Okay, we're gonna give Mackenzie another time through this, so go ahead and keep trotting. Come around to your exercise again. So what we've done is we've modified our exercise. You know, originally we started out with a bit higher cavaletti pull, and then just based on Andy, we lowered it just to be in the center point, a little bit easier for them to pick their feet up. And that's a good thing that we did it, because now tracking this direction, Sweet Pea needs that. Oh, what a good girl, much better. So we gave her a couple more repetitions through, and the reason why we did that is because she was still trying to understand her balance. Isn't it amazing? She did such a beautiful job tracking left, and then as soon as we turned her around and she started tracking to the right, she started to lose her confidence and lose her balance. And so what we did by giving her more reps is we just allowed her to find that center step. And these are such good riders. They are able to help their horses, you know, and they're a lovely match and a lovely pairs that they've been working together for a long time, and they understand their horses' strengths and weaknesses.